What's up, everybody? Welcome to Daf Chaf Zayin of Masechta Shabbis. Quick overview of the page before we begin. The first part of our daf today is going to continue the machlokas that we began yesterday between Abaye and Rava in terms of how to understand the machlokas between Reb Shimon ben Elazar and Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael regarding do shar begadim, are they shar begadim being things like hemp and cotton, are they able to be mikabel tumas begadim whatsoever, right? According to Rava, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar would say that shar begadim are able to contract tumas begadim once they are 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim, whereas according to Abaye, both Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar and Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael agree that sha'ar begadim like hemp and cotton would be incapable of ever attracting tumas begadim. Only wool and linen garments can contract tumas begadim. So we are going to continue on that machlokas. Then we will introduce into the mix an additional Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael, which seems to be contradictory to the Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael that we saw yesterday. And we are going to have to try to figure out how to resolve that, which will then lead to an interesting discussion about which garments are chayav in tzitzit. So we will get there, and then we'll end up right by a new Mishnah, and immediately preceding that Mishnah will be a brief exploration of the halacha of linen being mikabel tumas negayim. Exciting stuff. Anyways, without further ado, let's begin Daf Chaf Zayin. We will start on Daf Chaf Vav Amud Beis, 4 lines from the bottom. So, quick catch up, just to catch everybody up to where we left off yesterday. Where we left off yesterday, we said that by tumas negaim, right, that by tsaras, okay, we say that the clothing, the tumas begadim, the clothing that can become tameh by negaim, is only tzemer ufishtim, only wool and linen, right? As the pasuk itself says over there, right? Nega tzaras bebeged tzemer or bebeged pishtim. Okay, so the tumas begadim by tzaras is only by wool and linen. And we said also from viha beged, from the ribuy viha beged, it means that wool and linen can contract tumas begadim by tumas negaim once already it's shalosh etzbaos al shalosh etzbaos, 3 finger breadths by 3 finger breadths. And she'ar begadim, things like hemp and cotton, would be unable to receive tuma whatsoever, even if it's 3 tfachim. Okay, fine. And we learned all that out from psukim. So now the question is, Rava, however, said that at least according to Reb Shimon ben Elazar, okay, right, he had said that the nafkamina between Reb Shimon ben Elazar and Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael was that according to Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael, sha'ar begadim would never contract tumas begadim, right, things like hemp and cotton, right, because he says that that since it says beged, stam, all over the Torah, right, such as by sheretz, tumas hameis, right, shechva zera, it just says beged and doesn't expound. And then by negaim, it explains that beged is davka tzemer ufishtim, is davka wool and linen. So Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael says that therefore, that we can learn from there that every place where it says beged, it means wool and linen, and that's that. Now, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says something very similar, which is that the only sort of material that comes mina eitz, from a tree, that would be able to be makabel tuma b'shalosh al shalosh, right, which is 3 etzbaos by 3 etzbaos, is linen. Okay, implying, right, meaning that something like cotton and wool would be incapable of contracting tumas begadim when it's 3 finger breadths by 3 finger breadths. However, Rava wanted to argue that the implication is, however, that if it's 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim, then Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar would say that it would be able, that even cotton and hemp, sha'ar begadim, would be able to contract tuma. Okay? So the question is, where does Rava learn that from? Because we basically said that we ended off yesterday by saying that we have no precedent, we have nowhere to learn from the Torah to say that by sha'ar begadim it would be tameh by 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim. So that is where we're going to begin today. So Rava de Amar Shlosha al Shlosha b'sha'ar begadim ika benayu. So now according to Rava, who says that the nafkamina, like we just explained, between Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar and Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael, is that the Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Islay, that Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says that by sha'ar begadim, that by things like cotton and hemp, it would be able to be makabel tumas begadim at 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim. The Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael leislay, whereas Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael would say that sha'ar begadim would never be able to contract tuma. Okay? So shlosha al shlosha b'sha'ar begadim minale. So how does Rava learn out that sha'ar begadim, things like cotton and hemp, would be capable of contracting tuma by 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim? So mi o beged. So he learns it out from o beged. This is a pasuk in the context of tumas sheretz. Okay, the context of tumas sheretz. It says, so the pasuk says, "V'chol asher yipol olav mihem b'mosam yitma." Anything that a dead sheretz falls on it will become tamei. Mikol kli eitz, whether it's wood o veged, or a garment. Okay, so from the fact that it says o beged, Rashi points out o ribuya hu, first Rashi on the page, right? That o is a ribuy. It's coming to include, and therefore it's coming to include even sha'ar begadim when they are 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim. Okay? And that would be by sheretz. So it wouldn't be by tumas nigayim, because by tumas nigayim we just said that it's only tzemeru fishtim, only wool and linen. Okay? However, this pasuk by tumas, right, that was by tumas nigayim, and then this pasuk by tumas sheretz is saying that by tumas sheretz you can include sha'ar begadim once they are 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim. Titania, as we learn in a brisa, and as Rashi points out, it's not really a brisa, because if it was a brisa, then Abaye wouldn't be able to argue. We're going to see that Abaye argues on it. So Rashi points out that we don't have the girsa of Titania. Okay, Seder. Beged. Ainli ela beged. Right? So it says by sheretz, beged. All I know is beged. All I know is a full garment, a complete garment that can be makabel tumas sheretz. Shlosha al shlosha b'shar begadim minayin. How do I know that it actually even includes a garment that is 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim b'shar begadim? Things like hemp and cotton. Talmud Lomar o beged. It says o beged to come and include sha'ar begadim when they're 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim. That is how Rava learns, and that's how he learns that by sheretz, shlosha tfachim by shlosha tfachim by sha'ar begadim is able to be makabel tumas sheretz. Ve'Abaye, how does Abaye respond? Because according to Abaye, he says that Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar both agree that just like by nigaim, only wool and linen can be makabel tuma, we apply that to every place where there's tumas begadim. It's only wool and linen, and therefore sha'ar begadim would never contract tuma, according to Abaye, even if they are 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim. So Abaye hay o beged mayavidle. So what does he do with this o beged, which Rava learns to include shlosha tfachim al shlosha tfachim b'sha'ar begadim? So mi baile le Rabbi shalosh al shalosh b'tzemeru fishtim demitami b'shratzim. So Abaye says that what you need o beged in the context of sheretz to teach me is shalosh al shalosh b'tzemer ufishtin, to teach me that by sheretz, by tumas sheretz, a garment made out of wool or linen is capable of contracting tumas sheretz when it is 3 etzbaos by 3 etzbaos. However, shar begadim would never contract tuma by tumas sheretz. Okay? Or by any tuma for that matter, according to Abaye. Virava gali rachmana gabe negoim vuadin lishratzim. Rava would respond to Abaye and says, well, I already know 3 etzbaos by 3 etzbaos by wool and linen. I know that already from tumas negoim. That if you have wool and linen, that's 3 etzbaos by 3 etzbaos, it could already become tameh. And we apply that to other tumas, right, including sheretz. And therefore I wouldn't need a pasuk by sheretz explicitly including shalosh etzbaos al shalosh etzbaos by wool and linen, because I know that from Negayim. So therefore, Rava Amars, why does it say obligated? What's it including? It's including shloshet tvachim al shloshet tvachim b'shar begadim. Ve'abaye ikal mifrach, but Abaye says, no, I wouldn't automatically know that a garment of wool and linen is able to contract tuma when it's 3 fingers by 3 fingers by sheretz. And therefore I specifically needed beged in the context of sheretz to teach me that wool and linen is makabel tuma by 3 etzbaos by 3 etzbaos by sheretz, because I would have said malin negayim shekain shesi ve'erev mitami boim, that negayim is super strict. Negayim is super strict because even a shesi ve'erev, even the warp and the woof, these threads are able to be makabel tuma by negayim, and therefore it makes sense that also a garment that is only 3 etzbaos by 3 etzbaos would be able to contract tuma. But I would say that by sheretz, which is not as strict, maybe a garment made out of wool and linen that is 3 fingers by 3 fingers would not be makabel tuma yet. And therefore I needed obligated to say that no, even by sheretz, a garment made out of wool and linen that is 3 etzbaos by 3 etzbaos would be makabel tuma as well. Ve'idach, and Rava responds to Abaye, and he says, Isak adaitech negayim chamire. Well, if you really think that negayim is so chamor, well then you know what? Lichtov rachman gabe shratzim v'leisu negayim minayu. So Rava responds to Abaye and he says, you know what? If that was the case, that negayim are more strict than shratzim, well then how about this? Make this fancy limud to teach that wool and linen garments are able to be tameh once they are 3 etzbaos by 3 etzbaos. Just teach that by shratzim, which is more mekel. And if over there these garments are already tameh by 3 etzbaos by 3 etzbaos, well then certainly by negayim, which is more chamor, it would be tameh b'shalosh etzbaos by shalosh etzbaos. So Ve'idach, Abaye responds, no, you wouldn't be able to do that. Nigay mishratzim lo asudika lemifrach malishratzim shekem etami bechadasha. You wouldn't just be able to, just as simply as that, learn out nigayim from shratzim, because shratzim have their own chumrah, which is that a sheretz is metami bechadasha once it's the size of a lentil, right? Whereas nigayim, it needs to be a gris, which is half of a white bean, which I guess is larger than a lentil, and therefore, in that sense, nigayim are actually less chamor, less strict than sheretz. And therefore, according to Abaye, you needed to write that halacha by both sheretz and nigayim, that garments that are wool or linen are able to contract tuma once they are 1 finger, once they are 3 fingers by 3 fingers. Whereas Rava says that the obligated in the context of sheretz is to teach that she'ar begadim can contract tuma when they are 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim, at least by sheretz. Wow. Okay, fine. So we've just explained how Abaye and Rava both kind of maintain their, perspectives towards the machlokas between Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar and Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael, and they're able to back them up from their respective psukim. Okay, great. So that's settled. Fine. They have a machlokas. Great. Now, Amar Abaye, says Abaye, Hay Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael, Mapik Me'idach Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael. Very interesting. Abaye says, actually, what's interesting about this machlokas is that we have another Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael. We have another statement from the Beis Medrash of Rabbi Yishmael, which seems to contradict the earlier Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael. The Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael, as we learn in the Beis Medrash of Rabbi Yishmael, Beged, when it says Beged in the context of Sheretz, Ainli Ela Beged Semeru Fishtin. All I know is a beged of wool or linen. Minayin l'rabos tzemer gemalim. How do I know that it even includes, wool made out of camel, v'tzemer anavim, or sort of the wool from rabbits, or I guess the fur from rabbits. Notza shel izim, garments made out of goat hair, v'ashirin v'akalach v'asrikin. So the Safari actually just define these as shirin, kalach, and srikin, but I think that they're like silk kind of things. Talmud Lomar o beged. Therefore it says o beged to include these things. So Abaye says, look, this is a machlokas. We have two contradictory statements coming from the Beis Medrash of Rabbi Yishmael. Right? The first one was saying, right, that the first one clearly, the whole point of the first one according to Abaye is to say that just like by Tumas Negaim, a beged is defined as a garment made of wool and linen. And Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael is saying, and therefore we apply that to every place where it says beged, including sheretz, every single place, it's only going to be wool and linen. And then we have this other Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael, which is saying that, at least when it comes to sheretz, when it says, oh beged, it's coming to include all sorts of stuff. So, right, even like goat hair and stuff like that. So therefore, Abaye says, look, they contradict each other. Malasot, let's go weiter. Which is interesting that Abaye, I don't know if I said Rabbi, I hope not, but Abaye, it's interesting that Abaye is willing to just say that, like, okay, they contradict each other. Let's go on with our lives. Okay. Rava said, Ki leis le lahachtana devei Rabbi Yishmael b'shar begadim, that when the original Tana devei Rabbi Yishmael, the one that we had yesterday, said that only tzemeru fishtim would apply to every place where it says beged, right? When the Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael says that just like it says tzemeru fishtim by negaim, also therefore all other places where it says beged, it's only tzemeru fishtim, it's only wool and linen. That is shalosh al shalosh. That's only regarding 3 etzbos by 3 etzbos. That's it. That's all he was saying. But shlosha al shlosha isle. But 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim b'sha'ar begadim, at least in the context of sheretz, would apply. If you have sha'ar begadim, if you have hemp, if you have cotton, and it's 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim, it would be mekabel tumas begadim. Okay. V'harava u'da amar, but didn't Rava say shlosha al shlosha b'sha'ar begadim Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Islay, the Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael Leislay? But wasn't Rava the one who said specifically that the nafkamina between Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar and the Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael was that Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says that when it comes to sha'ar begadim, like hemp and cotton, they can be mekabel tumas begadim by 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim, and Davka Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael says that they cannot. So why all of a sudden is Rava saying that the Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael holds that when it comes to at least to mashratzim, that a garment made of cotton or hemp or anything else that is 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim would be mikabel tumas begadim? I thought the whole point was that according to Tana Devar Bishmael, they can't. So the Gemara answers, Rava changed his mind. Initially, that's what he thought. Initially, he thought that there was a difference between Tana Devar Bishmael and Reb Shimon ben Elazar, whereas Reb Shimon ben Elazar would say that Shai Begadim would contract Tumah b'shlosha tvachim al shlosha tvachim, and Tana Devar Reb Bishmael would say that they would not. But he changed his mind and said, no, actually, they both agree that Shai Begadim could be Mekabel Tumah when it's 3 tvachim by 3 tvachim. Okay. At least when it comes to sheretz. I don't know, I'm not exactly sure how Rava would necessarily apply it to other cases. Okay, fine. Okay, so that's how Rava explains it. And in that way, they're not contradicting each other. Tana Devar Bishmael agrees in both cases. Even in the first place, right, he ended up saying that, right, in both brises they agree that, Tzemer Ufishtim, only Tzemer Ufishtim would be able to be Mekabel Tumah by 3 etzbos. But once already get to Shlosha Tvachim al Shlosha Tvachim, even Shai Begadim can be Mekabel Tumah. Okay, at least when it comes to Sheretz. Because that's where we have that limud of obligated. Ve'iba isema, or if you want, I'll say, Ha Rav Papa Amra. Or if you want, I'll say, Rava actually just now did not say anything. Pretend like Rava didn't say anything. Rather, it's Rav Papa who's coming to explain that the two Tana Devar Bishmaels do not disagree, that or without the double negatives, they agree. Okay? The Rav Papa Amar, because Rav Papa said, Af Kol. What's Af Kol? That if we look back at what Tana Devar Bishmael says, right? No, what is this Tana Devar Bishmael? If we go back to Chavav Mid Beis, the 4th line into the Gemara, the Tani Devar Bishmael, Hol v'nemru begadim bator stam, ufer lecha kasav be'echad me'en tzemer ufishtim, ma'lohalan tzemer ufishtim, just like by Tumas Negayim, it says, it defines beged as tzemer ufishtim, af kol tzemer ufishtim. Therefore, every place where it says beged, it means a beged of tzemer ufishtim. So Rav Papa says that af kol, when it says every place, it's not talking about every place of tumas, such as tumas sheretz and tumas mace and tumas shichvazera. These would be talking about garments made out of wool and linen. No. That's not what it's saying. It's saying af kol la'asuye kilayim, to say shatnez, meaning just like by tumas negoyim, a beged is considered a beged, a garment, when it is made of wool or linen. So also by shatnez, what's considered shatnez, what's considered this shatnez thing that you're not allowed to do? It's wool and linen. That when you have a garment made out of wool and linen, that would be considered shatnez. The Gemara says, "Kilayim behedzik sivebe lo silbas shatnez tzemer fishtim yachtav." But what do you mean? It already says in the pasuk where it defines shatnez, it says, "Don't wear shatnez." What is that? Tzemer fishtim yachtav. Don't wear wool and linen together. I don't need Tana Devar Bishmael to explain to me that shatnez is wool and linen. So Papa says, yes, I do. Sakadate Chamina would have entered my mind to say, Hanimi liderech levisha, that it's only shatnez when it's wool and linen if your mom is wearing the thing, like a normal way to wear clothing. Aval beha'ala kol trei mine aser. But if I'm just not necessarily wearing it, but I'm just like throwing it on myself, not necessarily the normal way to wear it, just like putting it on, I don't know, in a non-normal way of wearing it. So then maybe in that case, it wouldn't just be wool and linen, it would be any two threads would be considered shatnez. And therefore I need Tana Devar Bishmael to teach me that no, even just derech ha'ala, even just throwing it on myself, it would only be shatnez if it's wool and linen. But 1 second, v'lav kava chomeru, wouldn't I know that even without Tana Devar Bishmael? Wouldn't I just know that logically? Uma levisha dekamishane kule gufe mikilayim amar tzemer ufishtim in midiachrina lo. If when it comes to wearing it the normal way, where your entire body is getting benefit from it, and yet, so it's more a chamor case, and yet we are limiting it to just these two materials, wool and linen, well then, ha'ala lo kol shekain. Well then certainly when you're just throwing it on yourself, which is a more makil case, we're not going to then be more machmir and open it up to any two thread combinations. No. So in that case also, it would make sense to say that that's also only going to be limited to wool and linen. So therefore, I really don't need Tana Dver Rabbi Yishmael to teach me that when it comes to shatnez, it only applies to wool and linen. So Eldar Papa Bedusahi. Rav Papa made a mistake. Okay. Rav Papa made a mistake, and he thought that it would apply to shatnez, but in the end, it's just not going to work out. Okay. Very good. Fine. Okay. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Amar. So now Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak gets involved in this discussion, and he gives his perspective of what, so kind of along the lines of Rav Papa's attempt, right, to say that this Tana Dver Rabbi Yishmael, when it says Af Kol Tzemer Ufishtim, he's also saying it's talking about something completely different. It's not talking about Tumas Sheretz and Tumas HaMeis and etc. Rather, Af Kol Lasuye Tzitzis. When it says Af Kol, it's saying also Tzitzis is only shayach to a garment that's made of either wool or linen. That's what Rav Nachman wants to say. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak wants to say that Tana Dver Rabbi Yishmael has come to teach us that just like Tumas Negayim is only by a garment made out of wool or linen, so also tzitzis needs to only be on a garment of wool or linen. If it's made out of polyester, wouldn't be shayach in tzitzis. But one second, tzitzis be'adjek, but I don't need Tana Dver Rabbi Yishmael. It says already by tzitzis. What does it say? Lo silba shatnez tzemer ufishtim. It says, don't wear shatnez. What's shatnez? Tzemer ufishtim. And it says immediately following that pasuk, uchsev gdilim taiselach. Make yourself tzitzis. So what do we see? So we see from the juxtaposition of these two psukim that tzitzis is only going to be shayach to a garment made of wool or linen. And if I don't need Tana Dver Rabbi Yishmael to teach me that. So the Gemara answers, no, I do need Tana Dver Rabbi Yishmael to teach me that because I may have been tempted to say like Rava. What does Rava say? Rava asked the following question. Ksiva Kanaf, on the one hand it says in the Parshas Tzitzis, right, it says V'nosnu where is it? V'nosnu al tzitzis akanaf psil tcheles. Right? That you put on tzitzis on the corner a thread of tcheles. So the Rav Rami ksiv akanaf, it says the corner. Now, as Rashi points out, the corner is extra. You don't need it to say corner. You could have just said v'nosnu al tzitzis psil tcheles. Just saying, you put on the tzitzis a thread of tcheles. What's akanaf? So min kanaf. It means that you should make the tzitzis, the threads, the strings, out of the same material as the corner. So if the corner is made out of silk, so then your strings should be silk. Okay? Which of course then also applies that you would put tzitzis on a silk garment, not just wool and linen. Uchsiv, and the pasuk says tzemer ufishtim yachtav. Yet we also have this pasuk by shatnez which says tzemer ufishtim yachtav, immediately followed by gdilim taiselach, which is tzitzis. So we see on the other hand that it would apply only to wool and linen. So what's pshat? So aketzad tzemer ufishtim potrin bein b'minan bein shelo b'minan. So what it means is that if you have strings made out of wool or linen, those are sort of globally good tzitzis. So if you have a garment made out of silk and you want to put wool or linen strings for tzitzis, no problem, that works. She'ar minan b'minan potrin shelo b'minan ein potrin. However, when it comes to something like silk threads for your tzitzis, right, silk tzitzis strings only work for a silk garment. But if you have a garment made out of linen, you wouldn't be able to tie silk tzitzis threads. Okay? So that's what he says, right? Wool and linen can be used on any garment for the strings, whereas any other material you would only be able to use if it is the same, if the strings are the same material as the garment. So we see that according to Rava, you would have a chiyuv to tie tzitzis on a garment made of, let's say, silk or something other than wool and linen. So because I might have the havamina to say like Rava that other garments are chayiv and tzitzis, therefore I do need Tana Dver Rabbi Yishmael to teach me not like Rava, that only wool and linen garments are you chayiv to put tzitzis on them, right? Kamashmal, and that's why we need Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael. Okay, fine. Okay, so now the Gemara asks, so based on the understanding of Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, based on the way that he understands the two statements of Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael, okay, that the first statement of Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael, he proclaims that when it comes to tzitzis, it only applies to garments made out of wool or linen. And then the second statement of Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael says that obligated comes to teach that at least by Tumas Sheretz, but I think that at least, once already you say that the first Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael isn't talking bichlal about Tumas Begadim, it's talking about tzitzis, well then I think you could say that obligated is coming to say that when it comes to all Tumas Begadim, other than Tumas Negayim, so then Tumas Begadim would apply to, Shar Begadim, right? All, things like cotton, hemp, or whatever else, Ichvesvos, whatever else it might be made out of. So, Rav Acha bre de Rava, the Rav Ashi, the Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael. So then, according to this understanding of Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael, Mashna Linyan Tuma, how come regarding Tuma, Demar be Shar Begadim, how come regarding Tuma, he's very inclusive, he includes other garments to say that Shar Begadim are Shaykh to Tumas Begadim, Tichsiv Obeged, because the Pasuk says Obeged. Well, Hachanami, also here by Tzitzis, Lema L'Rabos Shar Begadim Me'ashet Chasaba. Well then, let Tana Devei Rabbi Yishmael also be inclusive also by Tzitzis, and say it's not just by wool and linen, but it applies to all garments, because the pasuk says asher chaseba. What does the pasuk say? It says gdilim taiselach, make for yourself these strings al arba kanfos ksuscha, on the four corners of your garment, asher chaseba, that you will cover yourself in, right? And does Rashi say anything? Yeah, exactly. Rashi says ribuya in the Rashi asher tchase, ribuya dekra yiseru. It's an extra pasuk. You don't need it to say asher tchase alav. Just say put strings on your four corners of your garments, not in your four corners of your garments that you cover yourself with. I don't need to say that you cover yourself with. So it's coming to include something. So let's say that from asher tchase ba, that it should be coming to include shar begadim by tzitzis, and not just semer ufishtim, not just wool and linen. So the Gemara says no. So, or I guess Rav Ashi answers no. Ha'ula asuye ksus suma huda asa. No, asher tchaseh alav, asher tchaseh ba, what it's coming to include? It's coming to include the garment of a blind person. The garment of a blind person, to say that the garment of a blind person is also shaykh to tzitzis. Okay, let's see what this means. The Tanyas, we learn in the Brisa, or isim also. And you will see it. You have to be able to see your tzitzis. Prad l'chsus laila. That excludes clothing that is designated for nighttime use. Because since you don't see these clothing, you won't see the tzitzis, therefore it's not shaykh to tzitzis. The Gemara says, Ata omer prad l'chsus laila, eno ella, prad l'chsus suma. 1 second. How do you know that Uri Isem also is coming to exclude ksus laila? Maybe it's coming to exclude the clothing of a blind person. Since he can't see them, you shouldn't have to put tzitzis on them. So the Gemara says, don't say that, because kishu omer asher tchaseh ba harei ksus suma amor. No, when it says asher tchaseh ba, which is coming to include something, it's coming to include the clothing of a blind person, to say that is also chayiv in tzitzis. Okay? Homani mekayim urisim also. So then what is excluded from urisim also that you have to be able to see it? Prad l'chsus laila, to exclude a ksus laila, a garment that's designated for nighttime use, would not be chayiv in tzitzis. Umara isa l'rabo summa l'hotzik ksus laila. But how come you decided that what's included from asher tchaseba is the clothing of a blind person, and what's excluded from urisim also is ksus laila? Mar be'ani ksus suma. Oh no, so that's the kasha. So Gemara answers, you know why? Because mar be'ani ksus suma, I will include from asher tchaseba, I will include the garment of a blind person, to say that it's shaykh to tzitzis, sheyeshna b're'iyah eitzel acherim, because other people can see it. And the pasuk says, "Re'isem" also, that if you could see it, then it's chayiv in tzitzis. And therefore, if other people can see it, then you can't, say that it's going to be pater in tzitzis, because the Torah says it would be chayiv in tzitzis. So as long as it's visible, it's going to be chayiv in tzitzis. Umotza niksus laila, however, I'll exclude from tzitzis a garment that's designated for night, she'ena b're'iyah eitzel acherim, because nobody could see it, and therefore it's not shaykh at all for tzitzis. Ve'em l'rabus shar begadim. But one second, okay, fine. So Urisim also excludes ksus laila, but ashet chaseba, we say it comes to include the ksus, the garment of a blind person, but maybe it's coming to include sha'ar begadim, to say that tzitzis isn't limited to wool and linen. Maybe it could be any garment. So the Gemara says, don't say that, because mistaver koi b'tzemer ufishtim mar b'tzemer ufishtim. It makes sense that if already we're talking about tzemer ufishtim, right? It says in the context of shatnez, it says tzemer ufishtim. Immediately followed by that is this pasuk of Gedilim Taisalach, which is saying tzitzis, and it's saying asher tchasaba. And the question is, what's asher tchasaba coming to include? Well, if we're already talking about tzemer ufishtim, or if we're already talking about wool and linen, it makes sense to include more wool and linen, which is the wool and linen of a blind person, to say that it's chayiv in tzitzis. Koi b'tzemer ufishtim mar b'shar begadim. But if we're talking about wool and linen, we're just going to automatically say that asher tchasaba is coming to include random other materials? No, it makes more sense to say that we're staying in context, which is tzemer ufishtim, and saying to include the tzemer ufishtim of a blind person. Okay, there you go. So that is why, according to Tana Rabbi Yishmael, tzitzis would only be by wool and linen. Okay. I'm not sure how we paskin the Maisa. I think the way we pass, I don't know. There's mesh tzitzis, and that stuff people put tzitzis on. That's not wool or linen. I don't know. Okay, fine. Let's go weiter in Shas. Amar Abaye, said Abaye, Reb Shimon ben Elazar v'Sumchus amu davar echad. So Reb Shimon ben Elazar and Sumchus agree, okay? Reb Shimon ben Elazar ada Amaran. So Reb Shimon ben Elazar is that which we said. No, what did Reb Shimon ben Elazar say? Reb Shimon ben Elazar said that once you have what's it called? Linen, right? So then you would not be able to use it for schach, because it would be able to be makabel tumas negaim, right? Right? That linen you would not be able to use for schach, since it could be makabel tumas negaim. Okay. Now, even if it wasn't in a garment. Now, Sumchus, and what's the statement of Sumchus? The Tanya, Sumchus oma sikcha betavoi psula, mipnei shemitama b'negaim. That if you use for schach linen that is spun into a thread, it would be pasul, because it's mitame b'negaim. Oh, okay, very good. Kiman. So, and now who is this like? Ki aitana d'tnan, it's like the following Tana that we learn in the Mishnah, Shesi ve'erev, when it comes to the threads of the warp and the woof, mitame b'negaim miyad divrei Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says that they are mitame immediately. Once you make it into a thread, it's immediately mikabel tuma, just like tumas by tumas negaim, just like Sumchus and Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Rabbi Yehuda omer hashesi mishe yishale ve'erev miyad. So the shasi, the warp threads, from once you take them out of the kettle that you are whitening them in, so I guess that's sort of a later step, the erev miyad, the woof thread would immediately become tamei tumas negaim, va'onin shall pishta mishe yislabnu, and stalks of flax once they already become white. Okay, but I guess that the point is that Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar and Sumchus would agree like Rabbi Meir that they immediately become mikabel tuma once they become a thread, and once you spin them into a thread, and then you wouldn't be able to use them for schach. Okay, that was Daf Chav Zayin of Masechta Shabbos. Okay, you had to focus a little bit there, but okay, you worked it through. It's methodical. All right, exercised your brain. I don't know if you're a morning person or a night person. I'm a morning person. So at night, this would be a little much for me, these kinds of brain Gotta work these through the brain processing. Okay, let's do a recap now of what we learned. So we started off with the continuation of machlokas between Rava and Abaye about kinkain and hemp bitame when it comes to 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim. And Abaye and Rava both kind of were able to maintain their opinions, which is that Abaye says never, right? Shai begadim would never be able to become tameh with tumas begadim. And Rava says that at least at the beginning of the Gemara, we're assuming that according to Reb Shimon ben Elazar, they would be able to be makabel tuma by shar begadim if it's 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim. We then saw in the Gemara that maybe Rava even then said that Tana Dever Bishmal would agree with that as well, right? And that is when, of course, we introduced this sort of maverick brisa of Tana Dever Bishmal, where he seems to be saying that actually we do include shar begadim by tumas begadim, at least by sheretz. So Abaye says, what can you do? They seem to be arguing on each other. Rava seems to go back on what he said earlier and to say that actually both Tana Dever Bishmal and Reb Shimon ben Elazar would agree that shar begadim can be mitame once they are 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim, and that's at least in the context of sheretz, according to Rava, right? Because according to Rava, you still have that first Tana Dever Bishmal, and that might be saying that by tzemer, that it's only tzemer ufishtim by, let's say something like tumas hameis, right? Because this pasuk is only in the context of sheretz, and Rashi seems to be, at least in explaining Rava, limiting it to specifically sheretz. So I'm not sure what Rava would necessarily say, but let's say begadim by a mace, okay? But then we get into the opinions of like Rav Papa, which ended up being a mistake. But according to Rav Papa and Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak already, we're saying that the original Tana Dever Bishmael really had nothing to do with Tumas Bigadim and applying the Tzemer Ufishtim of Nigaim to all Bigadim. He says no, that Rav Papa and Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak say that the original Tana Dever Bishmael had nothing to do with other Bigadim when it comes to Tumah. According to Rav Papa, it had to do with Shatnez, which ended up being thrown out and being mistaken. According to Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, it was talking about tzitzis. That tzitzis is only shaykh to tzemer, ufishtim, wool, and linen, which is how we then got into some interesting discussions about tzitzis regarding what strings to use and things like that. We had the opinion of Rava that said that tzitzis is relevant to all materials of garments, and the difference between wool and linen versus all material is that wool and linen can be used as strings for any material, whereas that something like silk would only work if the garment is made out of silk. Okay, fine. And then we ended off the Gemara with just going back to what we said earlier about the tumah of linen being able to become tameh immediately when it is made into a thread. And that is like sumchus as well. Okay, fine, very good. That was Daf Chav Zayin of Masechta Shabbos. Hope you enjoyed, and hope you enjoy your day or your night. Peace.